God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve, contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition.
There is a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit. But when they are logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life.
Thank you, George. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the people that made this thing possible, and also commendable that you showed up. They say that humility is teachability. Place oneself in a position to be taught. When I look around, man, we have a lot of people, great survivors. That kind of remind me of a fellow member of Alcoholics Anonymous passed away in good terms, sober, and they ended up at Pearly Gate. You know what that is, paradise. And old Peter met up with him, and he gave him good news. He says, I got good news for you. There'll be a meeting tonight. And he's happy as a lark. And furthermore, you're going to be the speaker. And I'm talking about that. Elated. And then he asked him, he says, what are you going to be talking about? And I'm going to tell him about the big flood that I survived there in California. He says, I got to warn you, Noah will be at that meeting. We got a lot of Noahs here. That's for sure. And so the Unshakable Foundation for Life, how that came about. I had a friend of mine from my home group, Long Beach Under 40 group, sobered up together, had the same sponsor, and had the same birthday. And the news got around that he's in trouble. And he moved from Long Beach to Barstow and bought a lot of property, and he's got prestige, everything going for him. And so I called him only to find out that he was drinking alcohol. And so we decided to 12-step call him, as it is a custom in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got a guy that I sponsor. We went up to Barstow to meet up with him. And we wanted to know why he took to drinking again after 33 years of sobriety. That happens 18 years ago. And he told us the story. He said, well, active as a member of the board of directors, we got a business meeting, and I made a motion, and that motion didn't go quite right, and we started an argument. I don't know whether you ever been in business meetings. So you got the bleeding deacon and the elder statesman and in between, right? David, you should know that one. Where's David? Oh, I love you, man. He was chairman of the board, and he's one of my heroes. Anyway, so he got angry, and this little pretty girl sided with him, and he left and gave him the finger. Fuck you. Left. She followed him and they went home. One thing led to another, and the heat was on, you know. And she said to him, I'd like to have sex with you. However, it'd be nice if I had a drink. So you hightailed it to the liquor store and got a bottle of whiskey. And he took to drinking again. And so on the way back, my sponsee and I got to talking about it, and then we went to the sponsor, because we had the same sponsor, and we got to talking about that. And we came to this conclusion. Because you ask anybody that went back to drinking again, why did you go back to drink? Well, this, well, that, well, this relationship, job problem, money problem, da 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 da. And invariably, if you're working with somebody that went back to drink, just keep asking that same question over and over again until you get to the point. And that is, what caused that? Blah, 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 blah. What caused that? Yak, 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 yak. What caused that? Yak, yak. And then, if it happens to be a lady, just ask her, what are my defects of character? She's going to look at you like you're crazy. I don't know. Well, lady, I know yours. You do? I don't know you. I know yours. What are mine? Yours are pink and mine are blue. They're the same. No gender. And so, pride, because he knew better than they did. I'm the boss, don't you know? How about anger? You give him the finger. And he used the F word on him. And guess what the third character defect is? You guessed it. Lust. We call it 13 stepping, right? So bad enough to have one character defect whizzing in your head, but 2 or 3, according to this psychiatric friend of mine, called me 2 weeks ago. He wanted to know about this thing here. Last April, I gave it to a newcomer. He took it to his therapist, this page that you got in your hand. The therapist took it to his boss, the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist gave me a call. He had a phone number in there. He asked me, he said, is it patented? I said, no. It's a free thing. What he was interested in is 2 words. Number 1 is a hugger mugger. Have you heard that one? He said he never heard of it. Hugger mugger. And the second one is a catharsis. Uncle Bill, he came out with 3 practices, as you can see in that paper. Self-examination, meditation, and prayer. And he goes on to say, there is a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. And taken separately, these exercises can bring much relief and benefit. Think about it. But when they're jointly related, the result is what? Unshakable foundation for life. I hope it means a lot to you as it did me when I looked at it. Unshakable foundation for life. It's incredible. You don't want to build your house on sand. Solid ground. Right? So that's the first thing. Now, when do you do that? To start the day. According to Silky, that's Dr. Silkworth, that helped us a lot, helped Bill Wilson sober up and all that. There's a statement in a big book that goes something like this. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffice. That means it's not enough. Idle talk is not enough. Oftentimes, meeting after the meeting, we blow hot airs in each other's ears. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffice. And the message that would interest us must have depth and weight. That means serious, doesn't it? And their ideal must be grounded on a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their life. Your gig. About the ground. Am I right, Kathy? You're a big book savvy. So we're going to demonstrate what the ground, where does it go to, and what it is. Now, imagine having a battery, 5-year warranty. And if you don't believe that, your lady might not have done that, but you guys, I'm sure, somewhere along the line, you took a pair of pliers just to make sure that there's power in that battery, and you touch both posts and all spark flying all over the place, and you know darn well now that battery has power in it. So, battery has two posts, doesn't it? One positive, one negative. Out of the positive is what the energy comes out. It goes to the alternator, to the starter, to get the engine running. Now, according to this picture, how about the P and the E for energy and power, and I'm the center in there. According to this picture, can you get the car started? No way. No way. What's missing? The ground. Now, if you and I can find a way by which we capture this ground, package it, we'd be billionaires. We beat Facebook by billions. The ground. Now, what does that mean? The French, they're more precise. They call it mass, M-E-S. In English, we have that. Massive, that means big. That means you cannot measure it in length, depth, height, nor can you measure it in weight. Now, we do know it goes somewhere, don't we? At the same token, we do know it comes from somewhere. Now, if it goes somewhere, then this side is a transmitter, isn't it? Right there. And the other side is a receptor. And if it comes from somewhere, that somewhere is a transmitter, and this side is a receptor. Now, when you read in the big book, catapulted into a fourth dimension, or better yet, the sixth sense, God consciousness, what does that mean? Well, if you look in a dictionary about dimension, this is the way it goes. 1, the transmitter. 2, the receptor. 3, the transmitter. And 4 is the receptor. 4 dimensions. What it's saying, what it's telling us here, this good Dr. Silkworth, is that our ideal must be grounded on a power greater than ourselves if we are to recreate our lives. Now, in the big book, pay attention to this. Recreate, the way he wrote it, is R-E, which is a Greek convention, meaning to repeat, to redo, dash create. God created me. my responsibility is to recreate myself. How do you do that? How do you do that? Well, in the big book, it talks on page 86 somewhere about upon awakening, got to do certain things. PMA, positive mental attitude. Everything centers in the mind. Isn't there a difference between waking up and getting up? Difference in time and space? Absolutely. Now, if you got up, I'm pretty sure you identify with this. Those that drank outside there and ate chili and hamburgers and all night stand and all that. And next morning you sit on that throne meditating, digging holes on your knees with your elbows. All that stink coming up. You know what that's called? The disease, rectimitis. That's when the rectum nerve crosses the eye nerve and you get a shitty, crappy outlook on life. Doomsday before the day began. I think you identify with that one, don't you? Yeah. And so when do you get grounded? Upon awakening. If you get up, you better stop whatever you do. Get grounded. Otherwise that engine ain't going to start. And look, all the power and energy within limit is within self. Okay. Now, That leads us to the second thing. If any of those posts corroded, have you ever seen the battery post? Sometimes there's white stuff in there and all that. You can get the car started. The battery has all kinds of power, so it got to be cleaned up, doesn't it? It has to be cleaned up. And that's called self-examination. Yeah. What do you do with a self-examination? How do you do it? Well, Bill Wilson gives it to us. Very clear. If you look in the 12 and 12, it talks about a day's march. That means every day. There's the quick check inventory, the spot check inventory, and the inventory that's left at the end of the day, dealing with things of the past. First question on the self-examination. Of course, if you took the third step, it helps a lot, because that is the impetus, that is the springboard to self-examination. God knows that I know that He knows. The first question ought to be, what is it that I've done to harm? Now here's where a lot of my fellow members of Alcoholics, not a lot, that omit the second question. In the second question, you'll see it right there. It says, what was or were the root causes for the harm? Pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. Now, how that came about? This might be trivia, but I'll share with you what Bill Wilson had shared with us. 5 of us, 4 AAs and all a team, came back from an international conference of young people in AA in Toronto, Canada, and we had a date with Bill at Walter Cliff Walker, a member of the Board of Trustees, set up an appointment with him at his office. And he took us to dinner. He knew we were hungry. I mean, we were hungry. And then he told us a story. After all, he's the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yes, he wrote the big book. A lot of help from his secretary. And once the big book was written, now we come down to how you're going to distribute the big book. There's all kinds of motivation. And obviously, there was about 100 people sober, and they wanted to come out with some kind of a program, some kind of an exercise to keep these 100 people sober, moreover, to bring other people in. All right? Then he got criticized, accused of being a womanizer, accused of mingling the funds of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know what that means. And he got into depression. And that is, it's not a mystery type of a news. We know about that. We know that he has tried LSD, he has tried, I bought a whole gallon of niacin from him. He hooked up with a couple of doctors, heavy dose niacin B12 to overcome schizophrenia and whatever, depression. And so he locked himself in the bedroom. Bedridden depression. Imagine that. And the word got around that he might be drinking. So this nun, Sister Ignatia, called a priest, Father Downing, to go ahead and 12-step call him. See what's going on with Bill. We haven't seen him. We heard that he locked himself into that house in the bedroom, and actually he gave the order, instructions to his attendant not to let anybody in, including his wife. Imagine that. That is what you call isolation and depression. So the priest knocked on the door. The attendant wouldn't open. And he insisted, and finally he forced himself into the house and into the bedroom. Guess what he was going to do? His mission was a twofold. One, to do an exorcism on him. You know what that means. Get the devil off him. And two is to convert him into Catholicism. Imagine that. Had he been converted, you know what that means? He would have been canonized as a saint today. Bill Wilson. So any attempt to do the exorcism, because Bill was studying Catholicism as he had studied other religion. All inclusive, you see that in the big book. Among us we have Catholics, Protestants, Buddhists, Muslims, and not like this one, 15% of us are women. He had studied other religions, and now he's studying Catholicism. And the priest, in his mind, Bill was about ready to be converted. Oh man, they went out of their way to do that, to get him in. And what it is, the priest introduced him to the 7 deadly sins that you and I know, because it was Bill Wilson's wish that we get to accept them as defects of character, namely, or character defects. Pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. Now the miracle is that he accepted them. And guess what? The exorcism was done. The devil was out. And so he set up, abide by that 6th step, when entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, put him down. And by the way, what is missing in the big book is what gave birth to the 12 and 12, some 13 years later. The big book is right when it says, more will be revealed. You read it? Have an open mind. You know, there's 2 schools of thoughts in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's one that you believe in the big book only. Why? Because the 12 and 12 is one man's opinion. But who wrote the big book? They won't touch the 12 and 12. Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, the thing is, I'm not going to mention names, it's something like 20 years ago or so. Graphically, they talked about the 4th column. It doesn't exist. Graphically, there's 3 columns. However, I agree with this, that the 4th column is the part I played in. So what part did I play in? Well, selfishness, self-centeredness is the root of our problems. And we step on the toes of our followers, they retaliate seemingly without provocation. But we look in the past, meaning the 4th step, 8th step, 10th step, we find that we made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. Now, that gave birth to a question. I don't want to be like Socrates, you know, he had to drink hemlock because he asked a lot of questions. And the question is, what caused that? I'm here to tell you, if you don't know what caused that, you're condemned to repeat the damn thing over and over. And you heard that expression, expecting different results. If anyone here find a way by which to eradicate or eliminate those character defects from me, George, Dan, we work together on the steps. See me after the meeting. We'll make tons of money. You know, I know a couple of entrepreneurs, man, they're pretty sharp in marketing. You know, PMA stuff, positive mental attitude, seminars. Man, I've attended so many of them. The last one cost me $400. It did. $350 plus $50 material. You know, little cassettes and books. So what caused them? And Bill Wilson put them down, page 48 and 12 and 12. There's that list. He ran into the opposition. What was the obstacle here? He went to Dr. Bob, not to seek advice, but to seek consent. Bob didn't give it to him. No. Why? Because he still had the influence of the Oxford group. And the Oxford group was not Catholics, they're Protestant. And they're saying those 7 deadly sins belong to the Catholic. They don't belong to us. We want to deal with the original sin, which is what? Genesis. So you ladies, you're still guilty for making me eat that damn apple. So what he did was, okay, I'm going to accommodate everybody. How about human failings? How about a series of maladjustments? Character defect, I like that one. And 7 deadly sins. So everybody got accommodated as far as their title is concerned. No? And so the book was going to print. And he called a printer. Hold it. He had another revelation. And the revelation was that it is not only one character defect that screws up the thinking, that blurs the thinking process, everything centers in the mind, but 2 or more. Don't take my word for it, it's right in there, on bottom of page 48 in the 12 and 12. It is not by accident that pride heads the procession. What does that mean? And I looked at it, saying, heads comes first. Procession means another will follow. So the psychiatrist that called me, he says to me, yeah, that makes sense. Because that is a definition of schizophrenia. Let's say the way he puts it, schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia. You know what paranoid is, and you know what schizophrenia is. 2 or more character defect. My friend that took a drink after 33 years, he had 3 of them gone. Hey, look at it this way. We'll go to the thinking process thing. A kid was sitting in his bedroom, 22 years old, about a year and a half ago or so. He had a computer, everything going for him. And then he got in touch with a Congress lady, and he didn't like what she stood for, what she had to say. He's thinking. He went and got himself a gun, got some ammunition, chased her down to the market, shot her in the head, and killed 6 people. Where it all started. All right? So here's the question. What is the ultimate creation of the Creator? Because you can't have one without the other. What do you think, Dan?
Brain.
If you said self, you're on the right track. Okay. Within the self, no gender, from top to bottom, what is the next best ultimate creation of God? Think about it.
Self-will.
Give it to us. Is the brain. Somebody says the heart. When Bill Wilson gave us, he's called it the AAIQ. When he gave us those questions, somebody said the heart. He said, well, that can be replaced with a baboon heart. Oh, you'd like to have a monkey heart or a plastic heart. Why don't you go higher? The brain. Next question. What is the primary function of the brain? You're thinking, aren't you? You're right, the thought. What follows the thought?
Feeling.
Feeling. Sentiment, emotion. Now, if the thought is bad, obviously you're going to have a bad feeling, so we got a gauge in there, right? A bad feeling. Now, if you were to feed that bad feeling with more bad thought, it picks up momentum, doesn't it? It picks up energy, it picks up power. And that is what? A resentment. Here goes that RE again before a verb. The verb in Latin, sentir, S-E-N-T-I-R. If you translate it into English, it means to feel. Put an R-E before sentir, you have resent, to refeel. Now, more question again. Feed that resentment with more bad thought, it really picks up power and energy, doesn't it? Boy, you're in trouble now. You better call your sponsor. And that is known as an obsession. Isn't that what that kid, 22-year-old kid, got himself into? Prior to pick up the gun and go and chase the lady and shot her in the head? Obsession with somebody or something. Feed the obsession with more bad thought, it becomes a compulsion. Now in your paper there, we went to the dictionary and got their definitions. What a resentment is, what an obsession is, what a compulsion is. Now, you're into the resentment. You want to abort the resentment. And the sponsor says, man, you got to get rid of that resentment because it'll kill you. All right, yeah, I'll do. You try to do that. Abort the resentment so it won't become an obsession. And you can't. Something is wrong where? In the brain. What part of the brain? That's a goodie. My understanding is, my research is, it's called amygdala. If you translate it into English, it means the size, the form, the shape of an almond. Every single living thing is born with it. In the mother's stomach, the brain. Not the legs, the arm, the brain. The shape, the size, the form of an almond, that big. Unlimited capacity to absorb. Because in reality, when you measure time, best is measured not by the clock and the calendar, okay, we accept that, but by a series of consecutive events. Measure time by a series, and you heard that expression, you're sum total of your life experience. So in a mother's stomach, in that amygdala thing, the almond, the computer memory bank, if you will, and this is where those defects of character live, in your senses. Now you're born 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year down the line. All those events, where are they stored? Out of nowhere? In there. You go to the psychiatrist and that's what he tried to clean up. And it's called a catharsis. And you have a definition of it. The problem is being a hugger-mugger. You know what that means? Huggermugger. to keep things inside, to fight within, secretly and seethingly, to be muddled, to be jumbled, to be confused. I think most of us identify with that state of being. It is not well-being. Hugger-mugger. You hugger-mugger. I broke up with hives one time, chronically, and I had good insurance with the operating engineers, and so my sponsor came and rescued me, took me home and put me in a bathtub and put some stuff in there because I was itching like you wouldn't believe. Ah. And he said, we got to get you to a doctor. You got good insurance. So I went to the telephone book and we were looking for a doctor. We found one who happens to be the chairman of the Association of Allergy, by the name of Isidore Petesky. He says, with a name like that, he's got to be good, man. We take Isidore Petesky. So I go over there, he gave me 10 here, 10 here, 10 there, 10 there. These are puncture and these are needles. After 4 sessions, conclusion, no allergy. You guys told me that I had an allergy to alcohol. He says, I have no allergy. On the way out, he said, do you talk things out? So that's the. So Jerry, our sponsor, was concerned about prescription because about a week or so before that, a lady overdosed, called a big high, right? Behind prescription. So he wanted to know. He said, call me when you get home. And then one of the questions, what did he prescribe? I said, nothing. Did he say anything? I said, yeah. He said, you talk things out. He said, so Jerry said, I know all along you were a hugger-mugger. That's what that came from, hugger-mugger. Yeah. And look, take a spring. Isn't it a fact that it takes power and energy to push down on that spring? You bet you love it does. But anything you push down, you're going to give power and energy too. And can you unring the bell? The compulsion thing? Mm-hmm. So we need to do an inside shower. You want to pass that on? Catharsis, where did that come about? When I saw this pamphlet, it's not a very popular pamphlet. You ask any secretary, I don't think he was there. 3 Talks of Medical Society by Bill W., co-founder of the AA. When I saw that, I said to myself, now you don't get invited to address these people unless you have something good to say. Now, not only he was invited once, twice, but 3 times. So I got to read the doggone thing. And there's a lot of goodies in here about alcoholism, in addition to the big book, what Silkwood has said about it, and then things like that. And then here's that word catharsis. Self-examination catharsis. The alleviations of fears, problems and complexes, by bringing them into consciousness and giving them expression. Look, if anything that a sponsor has going for him when he helps somebody else, it would be to listen. Let that person do that inside shower, purging of the emotion. Let it out. And by the way, if you sponsor, you go to him or her, and you start dumping, you know what that means. Let it out. And he stops you about 3 minutes into your dumping. For the sake of identification, he's going to tell you about his problem. Guess what? You're going to end up with a double problem, yours and his. So what do you do with that? You just say, hey, spouse, please listen. Simple. Please listen. And let it all out. Hopefully they have patience and tolerance, because what good is it unless you got somebody to use it on, right? If you don't have patience and tolerance, this is an opportunity to cultivate it. Listen very important. Okay, then we'll finish up with that little doodad about the amygdala. So the information is in there. It comes out of there into what I call the conference room in the brain. My understanding of that particular organ is known as cerebral cortex. And that's where the thinking process takes place, based on the information that was stored in that little chip. Conclusion sends a message to another organ in the brain. Again, my understanding is called hypothalamus. And its function is to produce various chemicals that is released in a body, and therefore you feel. So what follows the thought is a feeling. You want to change your feeling, you change your thoughts. So this guy, an American entrepreneur, heard about Maharishi Yogi. You heard of him, probably, in India. And so he hightailed it there and find out what this guy's got going for him. And what he had going for him was a mantra. A mantra is a word or a phrase that you repeat so that you can change your feeling by changing your thoughts. So he brought him to the United States, and they had seminars like what we're doing. So this friend of mine told me about him, and he says we can get a discount if we pay ahead of time. And that was about $200 some. And I didn't have it right there and then. And also I thought, I know better. Don't need to go there. That pride again. But anyway, he went. The next day, we met at a meeting. And I asked him, I said, what went on? He says, man, you're euphoric. I said, I've experienced that at conventions. You know, a lot of people. Yeah. And anything else you got out of that? He says, yeah, I got a mantra. I said, what is it? He says, I can't tell you. What do you mean? I'm your friend. I can't tell you. What they do is they whisper in your ear, and that would be your private mantra. Period. The idea behind it, you repeat that mantra, and you can change your feeling by changing your thoughts. He wouldn't tell me. So I told him, I says, I got me a freebie mantra. He says, what's that? Out of the big book. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. You want to change your feeling, change your thoughts. Simple as that. And if you can't, then you better do a catharsis. You better do a self-examination, as Uncle Bill suggests. Soul cleansing, emotional purge. I like what Chuck C., a friend of ours, says, taking an inside shower. We clean out outwardly, but how about inwardly? So that the thing about the working of the brain. Now, where are we on this? The next thing would be the let's look at the sequence about self-examination. What we have done to harm self and others, what were the root causes, pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. With the spirit of forgiveness, what they have done to harm, real or fancy. What does that mean? You find it in the 12 and 12, dealing with the 8th step. And the big book talks about getting rid of resentment in the 4th step. In the 12 and 12, they reverse that. They said, let's deal in the 4th step with part I played in, what caused me to do that. And then when you get to the 8th step, I'm going to deal with the harm done me. and you by others. This is the way he puts it. We go back as far as the memory can ransack, dealing with the spirit of forgiveness, dealing with the harm done us, real or fancied. Now, the spirit of forgiveness, what does that mean? Are they forgiven for harming you? You forgive them, but are they forgiven? What do they have to do to be forgiven? You got to do what we do. Make amends. Realize we faulted and make amends. That's the only way you're going to be forgiven. And if they haven't done that, they're not going to be forgiven. Knowing, because crime and punishment go hand in hand. No sooner I stole, lied, cheated, or character assassinated, I brought about the punishment befitting the crime, didn't I? And then so we get into the meaning of shortcoming here. Cause and effect, shortcoming. What does that mean? In my community is an old-timer that said, oh, Bill didn't want to be redundant, and he used the word shortcoming when he really meant character defect. So I asked Bill Wilson, I said, what? He said, say that again? So I said, he said, what? That dodo. If I repeated the same thing, meaning the same thing, that's redundancy. So shortcoming and character defect, they're related, but they're not the same. So I went to the dictionary and got some definition. How about blemished? Oh, what caused that? A character defect like pride and anger and envy made me almost steal this friend's bicycle and throw it over the cliff. Now, as soon as I acted something wrong, I brought the punishment befitting the crime. That's what it was. So again, I asked Bill, please give me a good definition of a shortcoming. They had a menu. He took us to dinner, wrote it down. Attendant suffering. That's one. A sense of impending doom. Another one. Anticipation of calamity. Damn. I'm sitting in that throne early in the morning, digging holes in my knees, the great thinker, and my hand goes like this, and oh shit, I'm going to go to jail. And sure as hell, I end up in a drunk tank one more time. Anticipation of calamity. Deserving failure, undeserving success, guilt. And here's a good one for you. How about fugitive from justice? Run, mother, run. Yeah. And so whoever harmed me is being punished as soon as he committed the harm. Now, knowing that he's being punished, is that what I want for him or her? I better not. But what is it that I want for them? I want for them what I have. Pardon, mercy. Because when we look at the fourth step, but for the grace of God, we should have been dead, maimed, or locked up. But you know what? That's the grace. But the grace has an ending period to it, doesn't it? So what we're aiming for is pardon and mercy. Now how about real or fancied? What does that mean? That's the tail of the dog. So I asked him about that. Why did you use the word fancied when it's akin to imagined? You didn't harm me, but if I fancied you harmed me, in my head, in fact, you did. And I seek vengeance. And if I don't find you, I'm going to be vindictive towards the dog, my wife, my friend. I don't have to chase the guy that harmed me. They're chasing their own tail. I really don't. I wish for them to get well. That's why we say, and you hear it time and again, we pray for them, the sick people. And the next one has a lot to do with the coulda, woulda, shoulda. How many of us put our heads in the pillow and it was, God, bless it, man, I'm going to shut it off. So take a drink, take a pill, take whatever it is, so I shut this off.
Could have, would have, should have. If only. Yeah, but. And we want to be dealing with a could have, would, should have, would have, whatever it is, once and for all. We get the little ones, but the big ones, let's deal with it. We made a list of all persons who had harm, become willing to make amends to them all, and what was the root cause for the harm. Freedom at last.
Ninth step, ninth step, it is my belief, like that who went before me in the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, is that no sooner we get through the 8th step, where we make a list of all persons who had harm and did the previous steps, we will be provided with the ways and means by which to take corrective measures. Just comes. Is that a miracle? No. A miracle is something you can't explain. Are these extravagant promises? Let's hear it.
We think not.
That's right. Around the world now. I was in Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey. And they read the promises, and guess what? Right at the end it said, we think not. Isn't that funny? The word got around in the air like you wouldn't believe. We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize. Look at the 2nd step. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. When does that happen? There's a statement of fact, and that goes beyond the promises, because promises made, promises kept. But this is go beyond the promises. This is a statement of fact. It says, for by now, sanity will have returned. Wowee. Sanity, and we will react normally and sanely. The 10th step, by the way. And on the bottom of that page, you have a little thing, a little pearl of wisdom that was given to me. And it's called lack of objective is what differentiates the imbecile from the Caesar. When that was given to me, I looked at him like, don't call me an imbecile, man. You know. But a meaning after the meaning, he explained it to me. He said, lack of objective is what makes the difference between success and failure. So let this be your objective. The promises that Alcoholics Anonymous makes. Promises made, promises kept. Furthermore, sanity will have returned. Hey, how about this one? Not only we cease fighting everybody and everything, even alcohol. Hey, that's good news for an alcoholic. It happens. Predictable. Okay, next question on here. After what we should have done, what shall we do about it now? And it says meditate. What shall I do about it now? And that leads you to meditation. And what is meditation? How important is it? If you look in the 12 and 12, it says, in the 11th step, it says, sought through prayer or meditation. That implies that prayer comes before meditation, right? But if you're a student of the English language like I am, you read the tail of the dog, like sought through prayer or meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And the implication here is that meditation comes before prayer. Bill Wilson wanted to change that, by the way. But things were going like wildflower, so it says, if it works, why fix it? He wanted to fix that one, put meditation before prayer. And this is the way he did it, by fixing it. If you look in the 12 and 12, 11th step, 17 times meditation is mentioned before prayer. So what is meditation? To place oneself with a cleansed brain, because we did a self-examination, self-searching, to place oneself with a cleansed brain to receive God's revelation. Where did that happen? In the brain. That's where God resides best. They look for Him everywhere. Let's hide Him.
where men can't find him. Where? In his brain. Or in his heart, to say, you know. Meditation is revelation. Revelation. Okay, now we go to the prayer. What is prayer? Because that's secondary to meditation. Matter of fact, it's thirdly into the practice, because the practice is self-examination, meditation, and prayer. And prayer is simply realization of the revelation. How simple can you get? Realization. And if you look it up in the dictionary, realization, the French has it more precise on this one. It means more than knowing about it. What it means, like I planted the seed and the fruit realize themselves, making it happen. I think in the back of that paper in there, we went to the dictionary and got the meaning of it. Okay. I asked George to read some those defects of character that caused me not to meditate properly. Well, we used to have meditation sessions in different homes. Be well-to-do people. Every Thursday, change homes. And invariably we have people come in and after the meditation say, I can't meditate. My head is whizzing. And it is a hell of an indication that the person hasn't gotten into the fourth step, didn't do the catharsis. Those character defect is whizzing in your head. You know? So let us know about what the dictionary tells us about these character defects.
Pride. There is good and bad pride. Let us look at the bad one. Feeling of superiority. A haughty attitude, often unjustifiably, that he or she is better than others. An overly high opinion of oneself. Exaggerated self-esteem. Conceit. The showing of this behavior. Arrogance. Insolence. Greed. An overwhelming desire to have more of something such as money and or property than is actually needed. Cupidity. Lust. Sexual desire. The strong physical desire to have sex with somebody, usually without associated feelings of love or affection. Unrestrained gratification. Excessive sexual desires. Anger. Annoyance, indignation, rage, wrath. A strong feeling of grievance and displeasure. Disturbed. Affected by or displaying symptoms of psychotic disorder. Irritation, annoyance. A feeling of impatience or exasperation. Gluttony. Excessive eating, the act or practice of eating and drinking to excess. Envy, wanting what somebody else has, the resentful or happy feeling of wanting somebody else's success, good fortune, qualities, and or possessions. Sloth, laziness, a dislike of work or any kind of physical exertion, to hinder, to delay.
Thank you. Cool.
We have prayer called the 7-step prayer. It was something like this. My Creator, that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defects of character, which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my followers. And grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. The removal of the defects of character, unless we know what it is.
You know what? There's a sentence that I love. It says, character defect balk at investigation. I don't know whether you've seen it. Seen it, Reggie, in the big book? Character defect balk at investigation. My sponsor raised worms for a living, fishing and all that, you know. And he had these bins as big as this, earthworms. And they're crawling all over the place. You know how he keeps them down? He puts light on top. They don't like light. Stay in there, man. Those character defect, they're pretty sneaky. And the guy said to me, he said, wait till the cobwebs are lifted. And then you'll be able to understand what you're doing, you know. So this old timer took me aside. He says, what makes cobwebs?
So I told him, I thought it was a tricky question when I answered it. I said, spiders. He said, that's just it. Those spiders, man, there's 7 of them whizzing in your head. And you know what? If they're hungry, they make those thing there to get you, eat you. If they're not hungry, they catch you in that cobweb and they make you into a cocoon and get to you later. None of it sense. Go ahead and domestic those spiders. Removal doesn't mean eradication, fellas. It doesn't mean elimination. I have them, you have them. Pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. Removal means move from one side of the brain, is used denoting the amygdala thing, that's where they reside, into the conference room. Remove means go back from where you came out of. And you know what? They obey. If you give them an order, they obey. But if you don't know what they are, they'll sneak up on you, baby. They make you into a cocoon, get to you later. Or they eat you right there and then. So remember that removal thing, the R-E before the verb. Move, remove. Not eradicate, eliminate. Don't work that way. Yeah. Of course, if you're religiously inclined, you might have, a little exception in there because you're talking about the sin being forgiven. You keep repeating the same damn sin again and again. All right, so much about prayer. Action is the magic word. They say that faith without work is dead. I suppose that, faith, substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not yet seen. That's faith. I love this one. Made the decision to turn our will and life over to the care of God as we understand Him. So there's 4 birds perched on a telephone line, 2 decided to fly, and how many are left?
4.
That's right, 4. They only decided to fly, they haven't flown yet. So prayer is action. Action, you bet. Service in anything we do. Yeah. What is love then? We'll go with the love thing first. The love. L-O-V-E. So love is giving, doing, equals being. And if you give, if you did today, you are within the love. I gotta give, I have to do, and reason to be. More than just say I love you. I gotta do something. Gotta give something. Because what we're told in the 3rd step prayer, victory over them may bear witness to those with help of your power, your love, and your way of life. 7th step, to go out from here to do His bidding. I gotta give, I gotta do, and there's in the be. And look at the meaning of Trinity. You have that one? Trinity. So the giver, the gift, and the receiver. 3. When you hear Trinity, religiously speaking, we know that it is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. But if you look in a dictionary, if it is not capitalized, it means any 3 things that are related. The Trinity. Let's look at the logo first. We got the love thing. Love is giving, doing, and reason to be. You are. You're here. If you were to, would you want to do the stool thing? Yeah. If you were to ask which is the most important one of the 3, and the question is which is the most important peg of the stool you're sitting on. If you have the stool has 2 pegs, you're wobbly in there, right? 1 peg, you're going to fall off. 3 pegs, sit on it. Trinity.
Let's look at the other meaning of Trinity. Bill Wilson came out with his cohorts, with his friends, to develop a logo. You're familiar with it? The circle inside the triangle, right? So the circle represents an alliance, spiritual, like the ring. No beginning, no end. Then you can add a lot of goodies into that one. Hieroglyphic, you know how they do on the walls in Egypt and all the Indians and all that. Each symbol represents something, either a letter or a phrase. So the circle is, as far as we're concerned, is spiritual in nature. And the triangle, that was copied from Maslow's theory of self-actualization. And as far as we're concerned, they represent altruism. It was Dr. Silkworth who coined the name altruistic program, meaning our fellowship. This is an altruistic program. And the person that adheres to that is known, the move is known as altruism, and the person that adheres to that is known as an altruistic person. And that has a lot to do with love, doesn't it? Giving, doing, and reason to be. Well, the logo. If you put it, let's go with that Maslow's theory of self-actualization. Actually, each point of the triangle represents something. Look, every living thing, including trees and flowers, ants, mouse, rats, birds, fish, you, me, depends on these three things. You go to university and you learn a little bit about economics and all that, and he'll tell you. The three things are food, shelter, safety. These are the three things. Food, shelter, safety. So this young girl on Facebook, a friend of mine in California, she had a problem with a rat in an apartment down below and with a yard. And a rat sneak in there. And she's got two kids. And when the rat shows up, they all do the jitterbug dance. You know, if you're scared of stuff like that. They want to get rid of the rat. So all kinds of people giving advice on how to get rid of that rat. Wow. Poison. Let him eat poison. That's food. Yeah, but here's the problem. He goes and dies in his shelter. And then you got another problem. A rotten rat. So what I suggested was, look around if there's food around. She's got a dog. Well, yeah, there are tidbits in there, and that rat is gone after that food. Remove that, clean that up. But that's not enough. Take some of that food that rat is accustomed to eat and put it by the door to the garden outside, backyard. Sure as hell she did that. The food disappeared. Make sure the dog doesn't eat it and the kids don't mess with it. Food disappeared. Who ate it? The rat. I said, now you take that same food 3 yards away. That food disappeared. I said, now next one, make sure wherever you put that food, not in the direction of your neighbor, because that's where it's going to go. Food, shelter, safety. That's what the rat is looking for. Eh? That's what we know. And so they thought about it. Now by putting a triangle inside of the circle with a point upwards, it gives it movement. It moves. And the movement is clockwise. Oh, I love it when I saw this. Just loved it. You have recovery, you have unity and service. On the other side, you got recovery, service, unity, right? Again, that love bit. Now, the ideal thing is to be inside the triangle, inside the circle. Why? Because the thing moves. As it moves, all those lines become horizontal. You have access to all three legacies. recovery, service, unity. That little, what do you call that little rat inside the wheel there, you know? Recovery, and on and on and on. On the other hand, you and I know there's an old thing that says, oh, he's on AA, not in AA, on AA. So where is he hanging on to, the hitchhiker? On the outer circle. The thing moves. When he gets on the very top of that circle, he's comfortable, very comfortable. But what happens when he gets on the other side? Some people call it the, what is it, the slip? Slipperoo? It's called a spin-off. So, death, maimed, jail, disappear, or thank God for love. Because it is my belief that when a person shows up in Alcoholics Anonymous, we show love for them. Moreover, no doubt in my mind that they must have felt that love. They must have felt it. Because that is the most powerful thing that keeps an alcoholic from coming back here. Love that we have, the care, the concern, the affection. Doctor says one time to his intern, he says, and don't you ever forget in your prescription to include love. A pipsqueak got up and he said, yes, doctor, what if that doesn't work? And he replied, simply double the dose. Double the dose. So that guy that's spin-off, now he might come back in or come back on. That's the choice of the matter. Trinity. Three things that are related. Three pegs of the stool. Now let's go about the service thing again, about the love and the service thing. Okay, so we have altruism, the altruistic person. It is my opinion, and many, I'm sure you agree with that, your opinion, is that you have to have an attraction there. Because we say this is a program of attraction. Okay, if you want what we have and you're willing to go to any length to get it, what is it that we have to offer? The gift, because you got a giver, you got the gift and the receiver. What is it that we have to offer that person? And that person has a right to ask, hey, what is it that you have that I want? And that's called attraction, isn't it? It was really funny. I had a panel at the Hatchapee. And in that panel, I could take girls to that panel. 2 guys, 2 girls. And it got really nice because they feed us lunch. And the secretary and his cohort comes in, they let him out with us the rest of the dining thing. And then we walk along this building, and there's a huge yard and all those housing up there. And if I got some pretty girls with me, well, man, I took some real doozy girls, I tell you. Man, you can see them like a bunch of ants coming in. And then somebody told me about the hot doggers. Is that what they call them? Hot doggers? They come in for the girls. Now, one guy in the back, while the little young lady was sharing, you know what he was doing? Masturbating. So I'm thinking, that son of, I'm going to show him, I'm going to play a trick on him. So the next time around, I got Peggy McGee and Julie Aberson. They were about 80 years old. Could hardly walk. I swear to God. What do you usually have? About 50 of them in there? Only have 5 showed up. Attraction. Oh man, I tell you. Okay. So you're attractive. And you say, follow my footstep. Not just what I say, but footstep. You know, walk like you talk, you know. Follow my footstep. Well, if you do follow the footstep, then you're going to develop that attraction, don't you? And that person is going to say, follow my footstep. And she's going to develop the attraction. Now, here's the good thing about this Trinity thing. There is what you call safety, and there's freedom in that. The best position to be in is where? Look at it real good. In the center of those 2 people. The freedom is that you can let go anytime you want. Unlike some association, organization, or even religious bodies, you belong to me. You can let go. If that person in front does not cooperate, has that what we call love, giving to a being, you know, I love Gibran. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Khalil Gibran, called Rat the Prophet. And please, God, let my generosity be not used as a weapon, or my kindness be used as a shield, because some sponsors do that. And but if that person in front does not behave, I'll let go and get me somebody else. So that's a little bit of freedom. But the same token, look what those people in front are doing, people in the back. They're pulling towards the attraction. How about the people in the back? What are they doing, the people in front? They want more of what these people have. Pushing towards the attraction. Now, if you total that out, the pull and the push equals what? Power. Yeah. Together we stand, divided we fall. If you put one stick, I can break that. But man, if there's a lot of sticks in there, it's pretty hard to break. So the idea also is being in the middle of those sticks. Stick together. Don't bear any edges, because you get chipped off a little bit here and there. Get in the middle of it. The pull and the push. Here's another goodie here on this Trinity thing. By having somebody in front of you, you're not going to fall flat on your face, are you? I'm going to show you the pitfalls. And by having somebody behind you, you ain't going to fall flat on your kisser either. The pull and the push, safety, not only in number, not falling forward or backwards. Follow the footstep. Here the step we took, which I suggested, this program of recovery. It's simple as that, really. It deals with the service. Now, if you look at that first page, there is an inventory. It says, let's review, update, and improve on our state of well-being. On a scale of 10, 10 being best, what is your measurement? Where do we stand? Spiritually, if I did the grounding upon awakening, if I did the self-examination, followed by meditation, prayer, and service, then what number would you give that? A 10. Definitely. A plus 10. If I did only 3, I might say 6. I like 4. What I did with that one upon awakening, because man, I went to Save On Drugstore and bought a sheet of paper about that big and put some affirmation. Well, by my bed, as soon as I wake up, I'll look at it, man. Look up. Right grounded. I took a bar of soap on the mirror where I shave, and then I went a little bit further because I found myself giving the finger, driving, you know what I mean? Really cut me for me and there. So I took that bar of soap and wrote an affirmation on the windshield. After a while, that dust, dirt, you could see this time, and I got embarrassed. I had to wash it off. It took me forever to get rid of that soap. I had to use razor blade. But you know what? The seed was planted. How to behave. Yeah. Incredible. So on a scale of 10, 10 being best, where are you mentally? Have I read something useful? Emotionally. Physically. Sexually. I like that one. I just turned 81 years old. Yesterday. No Viagra for this guy. The wife is happy, I'm safe. About sex. I mentioned it page 69. So this meeting was being held and the subject was sex. So the leader is asking, how many here had sex once a day? A big number raised their hand. How about once a week? Another number raised their hand. How about once a month? Another number raised their hand. How about once a year? This guy way in the back. The leader says, why are you so enthused about this? He said, tonight is the night. So let's talk about sex. I was around, I sort of co-sponsored a priest by the name of Royal Vatican. I mean, I told him, I said, with a name like that, you gotta become a pope. So I asked him, I said, do you masturbate? Why'd you ask me that? I said, I'm just simply ask you, I want to know. And then he told me, he says that the Vatican, the Pope, it's about 15 years ago, they decreed that masturbation is okay. It's not a sin anymore. I remember a guy says, man, masturbation goes hand in your hand, hair in your hand. I'm like, damn. So this guy went to him and he says, a whole year without sex? He says, yep. I didn't have sex with a woman. He said, what'd you do? He said, my sponsor told me to take matters in my own hand. Damn. Anyway, so much about sex. Domestically, yeah, I pick up after myself. I do the dishes thing, you know. I fold the laundry. Man, that's a lot of work, folding the laundry. She washes them, I fold them. On the vacuum, do the yard. She says, honey, when you have time, would you do this? I'll stop whatever I'm doing, man. I'm going to do it. Safety. I want you to know that I'm the boss at home. But my wife commands, and I obey. I have peace of mind that way. I've learned to give up the last word. So domestically, I'm safe. Socially, get the hell out of here. You're 86. Do they still do that down out there? 86, you guys that are new? You know what that means. Last call for alcohol. Damn. National Alcoholic National Anthem. Yeah, socially I'm okay. I have friends. George, Heather, Reggie, Dan, they can vouch for me. Even Phil, my neighbor. I'm okay socially. He who has many friends hasn't got one to spare. But if he's got one enemy, he'll find him everywhere. So please, don't go out of the house without having something good to give. My thing is, the wife finally, she's okay with it. Leftover, she doesn't know how to cook for 2 people. Or 4 or 5, right? You've been there. And so there's leftover. I love leftovers. And so she gave me these things, and I make burritos out of it, and I'll take them to the meeting. You know, we sit the meeting before the meeting, invariably somebody is hungry. But better yet, on the way down from Paradise Alley, that's Anthem, I'm thinking, it is, I'm thinking about not to criticize, that's number one, bite my tongue, not criticize, period, and compliment. Compliment. You have a nice dress. Hey man, you're doing okay. I swear to God, it's like you wouldn't believe the feeling you get, you know. Safe, neutral, and protected. And by the way, compliment, when you compliment, I was told, don't compliment the obvious. Compliment. Find something to compliment about. So that's the one. Financially, your neglect does not constitute an emergency on my part, I was told. Now there's 2 schools of thoughts. If you're disabled and you cannot work, you cannot produce, by all means go welfare and they'll help you. They'll help you. Every club has, you know, where to go to get the help. But on the other hand, if you're healthy, hey man, go to work. If you're not going to inherit any money, even if you inherit money, go to work. Get active. My grandmother died at 103. I met up with her after 19 years of absence at 101. Man, she was as bright as could be. So I went to Algeria and told my brother, where is she? He says, over one of her daughters in the farm, 4 hours away. So we found her, and first I suggested maybe we should call, make sure she's there. He said, no way. You call, they hide her. They won't let you see her. How dare they? I come from America to see my grandmother, and they're going to hide her. Anyway, we did find her, and I said, Grandma, you want to go for, oh man, she loved me. I'm the oldest one of all the kids. She's also a midwife. Give birth, you know. 9 kids, my mom. The guy told me, I guess Dad and Mom must have been sinners, you know, little kids. She loved me to death. So we went for a ride, stopped to have a lemonade. On the way back, I told my brother, I said, you missed the turn. He says, nope, we're going back home. Yeah, but how about clothes? Sitting in the back seat. Don't need to. Wherever she goes, she got clothes. If she doesn't, they buy her or make her clothes. She doesn't own a suitcase for years. So I turned around and I said, Grandma, what's your secret on this thing? She says, a busy hand is always in demand. And so true. Whatever I know my grandma, wherever she's at, she's always helping out, picking up after herself and others. No guilt trip on anybody. Incredible lady. So I took her home, and then I learned another lesson from her. So got her home, and my twin cousins, one of them came down, Grandma, blah, 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 about her sister. And Grandma, you correct, honey. You're absolutely right, sweetheart. Walked her out of the door, cool as a cucumber. The other one came down. Yeah, Grandma, blah, blah, blah. You're absolutely right, honey. You're correct, sweetheart. Left. I said to Grandma, I said, Grandma, they can't both be correct. She says, you're absolutely right. Financially, the only person that's going to be taken care of, the older person that you hope someday to be, is the younger person that you are right now. Make sure to pay
whoever you're going to be, age 65, 70 retirement. And you can ask a lot of people that have failed to do that, and they're kind enough to tell you what not to do. And then you have others that are successful in having done that. For God's sake, seek their advice, and they'll tell you how to reach that security. It's called financial security. Anybody tells you money has no bearing, ask him for a $100 bill. It has something to do. But it is, in there, as you can see, is the tail of the dog. So financially, how do you do that? I attended a lot of seminars. As a matter of fact, I retired from being a member of the National Association of Security Dealers. How I got into that first through the insurance and then to the stock and bonds security. And because I was in deep doo-doo financially. I owe the income tax like 6 years or so, and on and on and on. And thank God for an old-timers that showed me the way and how to budget myself, not to overspend, and to stay within that Maslow's theory of self-actualization, food, shelter, safety, be grateful for that, and put a little bit of money aside and use that compounded interest in your investment. Don't take very much, but it takes discipline. That's the financial part of it. Now the other one is education. We asked Bill Wilson to write a pamphlet. He says, these high school dropout come in, delegates to New York, and they tell me what to do. So I can't do it, in a sense, but I'll try to maybe influence some people. What we did, we succeeded in getting a pamphlet called the Young People's Pamphlet at that time. But what we were interested in at the International Conference of Young People in AA, to which I was a member of the advisory council, was education and relationship. And what he said, when you go back to your community, make sure whoever you help, they're into the 8th step, self number on the list, self on that list first, and then you encourage them. Once they get that 8th step, 9th step, encourage them to go back to school. About, 3 weeks ago or so, Phil Patty called me, and he said he invited me to his retirement party. Fortunately, I had another commitment. When I met Phil, he didn't have a pot to pee in. He worked at the Broadway, got himself a job using that method we were talking about. He got himself a job receiving shipping department, and then went back to school. He got promoted upstairs, went to school, became legal, paralegal, became an attorney, became a commissioner, and became a judge, and he's retired comfortably. What would it take? What would it cause a young person like me not to go back to school? When everything says go for it, it's there. Pride, sloth, putting it off. And school is never out for the pro. I'm still learning. So education is important. The other one is entertainment. Oh God, please, stop it, spoil their roses. Take out vacation. Have fun. Go out of glum luck. You heard that one. But let's not overdo it. Las Vegas, man, do something else. Entertainment. And then mate. Mate. And I read a book called Games That People Play. What it is, this guy comes in. I'm tired, man. I'm tired of that job situation. And she looked at him like a little child, you know, wanting the affection of a mother. She's not his mother. And Connor, she comes out, man, I got with those kids, I got a migraine headache, man. And she's acting like a child looking for the affection of a father, and you got two kids fighting with each other. Deal, man. Mate. Look for compatibility if you haven't got one. You can't put a round peg in a square hole.
how do you get that mate? And that's another little session that I'd sure like to give, because I went through that, been there, done that. And finally I got this lady, man, we're compatible spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually. Compatibility is the name of the game. So mate is important. Yeah, very, very important. And it doesn't matter whether a person is homosexual or gay, you know, I'm open-minded on that one. Have faith, substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not yet seen. That helps a lot. On the bottom, that first page is a calendar. And it speaks for itself. Let us keep a daily track of our practice. Let us persevere and be constant. A sure way to fail is not to start. So what you're doing here is that you go read that first day. You do that for 30 days. Guess what? Use a pencil when you fill in that spiritual, mental, emotional, all that on skeleton being best. Use a pencil and practice those 5 exercises for 30 days. In 30 days you go back in that inventory and you will definitely see some changes for the better, no matter what your station in life is. No matter what your station in life is. A guy gave me a prayer, Walter O'Keefe, bless his heart. He has a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I was impressed with that, but what more impressed is that he attended meetings and shared love. Remind me of that guy over there, Reggie. And he gives you a prayer that says, thank you, God, for all that you've given me. Thank you for what you've taken away from me. But most of all, God, thank you for what you left me. He hands you that prayer and he says, here it is, claim it, it's yours. Improve on it and pass it on. Well, one day run into him and he said, how do you like that prayer? I said, great, man. It was great. And he says, would you do me a favor? I said, yeah, what? Anything, anytime. He said, compose a prayer that would emanate our innermost self and share it with me. So I went ahead. My ego that has the strongest and the speediest recuperating power, man, I took that like, wow, thank you for the compliment. So I'm writing a whole page. And then I got to reading and I started to laugh, man. I mean, laugh. I was giving God orders. Like wake-up calls. You don't know. Oh, come on. Yeah, so I condensed it. And so I closed with this little prayer. As I told you about a big prayer finally condensed, and it goes something like this. Dear God, as we look into this day, there are many things for which we are grateful. And we thank you for your abundance, with certainty of more and better things to come. And this, with this attitude, please God, let us continue on and on and on. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.